For decades, what happened inside Jeffrey Epstein's world remained hidden in sealed government files. Now, a massive release of material has pushed much of that record into the open. Today, we'll unpack what the newly public files show, what they do and don't prove, and why this matters. No spin, no hype, just the evidence. Hi, you're watching EconomiQ. In this video, we walk through the newly released documents and explain step by step what the evidence says about access, influence, and the gaps in accountability. A new law, the Epstein Files Transparency Act, required the release of previously sealed material. After a smaller, heavily redacted batch drew criticism, the Department of Justice released a much larger set of files on January 30th, 2026. Millions of pages, thousands of images, and hundreds of videos, according to official notices and press reports. The DOJ has also said publicly that the total holdings may be larger than what has been released so far, a claim that has sparked public debate about whether more remains hidden. Before we get into specifics, appearing in the files is not the same as being accused in court. Many names show up for different reasons: meetings, emails, or third-party references. The documents themselves are complex. Still, the frequency and context of some references are notable and worth careful examination. Among the people who appear in the material are Donald Trump and Bill Clinton. Both are referenced in various documents that include meeting notes, photographs, and third-party mentions. The files include many items that appear to be snapshots or photos that Epstein kept in his New York residence. Those images include public figures whose presence in Epstein's social circle has been previously reported. Another name that appears often is Prince Andrew. The documents contain multiple references connected to social encounters and invitations, including material described in media reporting as related to visits and photographs. British authorities have said they are reviewing items in the files that relate to prior allegations. The files contain email threads and logs that reference other high-profile figures as well. For example, exchanges mentioning Elon Musk in the early 2010s about a potential visit, and entries that reference Larry Summers in the context of meetings. In every case, we must be precise. The document's record mentions or contacts, not criminal findings. Beyond names, the newly released material fills in more detail about how investigators and prosecutors describe patterns of behavior and transactions linked to Epstein and his associates, according to police reports and court filings contained in the release. The original investigation began after a 2005 complaint in Palm Beach. The records include statements from alleged victims, early police reports, and investigative notes. Those records describe a pattern in which young women were paid for sexualized encounters and, according to some interviews in the files, were encouraged to recruit others. The language in the documents paints a picture of repeated organized conduct over time. Much of this detail comes from victim statements, witness interviews, and contemporaneous law enforcement notes contained in the public release. The files also contain prosecutorial memoranda from earlier phases of the investigation. For instance, federal prosecutors in Miami prepared a detailed memo in 2007 that outlined a potential indictment. Years later, the publicly known outcome was a non-prosecution agreement in 2008. That agreement, and how it happened, has been a central source of public and congressional scrutiny. The documents now give more context about the steps leading up to that agreement, including internal memos and negotiation records. The newly available pages also provide additional documentation about financial flows and relationships. Court filings and bank records in the release show transactions, count activity, and correspondence that investigators use to trace funds. The documents indicate that Epstein maintained relationships with institutions and individuals in financial circles. Some of those relationships continued even after earlier criminal findings. For example, public lawsuits and regulatory filings had already reported that Epstein retained accounts and services from major banks. The new records expand on those connections and include transaction records, wire details, and correspondence that investigators cited. The presence of such material does not itself assign legal blame to third parties, but it does add factual detail to how money and support were routed and managed. Taken together, the documents illustrate more clearly how Epstein operated within a network that included staff, intermediaries, and financial relationships. Some entries appear to show people who helped facilitate travel, accommodations, and introductions. Other materials show how funds moved across accounts and jurisdictions. Whether any third party had criminal liability is a separate legal determination. These files provide leads and pieces of evidence that prosecutors and journalists can examine further. If you find this kind of evidence-based reporting useful, please like the video and subscribe. It helps us keep producing careful, sourced explainers like this one. One recurring theme in the files is the question of why prosecutions did not occur earlier and what role institutional decisions played. The records trace a series of prosecutorial choices, plea negotiations, and administrative decisions. The 2008 arrangement, a non-prosecution agreement, is documented in correspondence and memos now available in the release. Those documents have already been the focus of congressional hearings and public inquiry because they show the legal reasoning and case assessments of the time. The release process itself has also raised concerns. Journalists and members of Congress noted inconsistent redactions and duplicate documents with different levels of detail, which has led to fresh calls for greater transparency. In response, the DOJ has arranged for select members of Congress to review certain unredacted materials in secure settings, while continuing to assert that public releases reflect privacy and victim protection concerns. Do the documents amount to immediate new prosecutions? In most cases, the material, while extensive, does not by itself create automatic criminal charges. Many entries are notes, third-party messages, or photographs that require corroboration. That said, the accumulation of detail gives investigators and oversight bodies a more complete map of contacts, transactions, and timelines. For some officials named or referenced in ways that raise questions, the files have already led to public fallout. For example, a senior official resigned after communications with Epstein were disclosed. What the documents do offer is a trove of primary source material, emails, financial records, travel logs, and witness statements that can be analyzed, cross-checked, and, where appropriate, pursued by investigators or explained by those referenced. Throughout this reporting, it's important to separate three things: what the documents claim, what investigators say, and what courts have already decided. The files are valuable precisely because they allow reporters, researchers, and lawmakers to follow the paper trail. But following the trail requires methodical verification, not headlines. The immediate next steps are likely to be procedural: additional reviews by investigators, more focused congressional inquiries, and continued reporting based on document analysis. The public pressure from the release and the political response to how the DOJ handled redactions and release timing make it likelier that oversight will continue. At the same time, legal standards for criminal charges mean any further prosecutions would require new, corroborated evidence and prosecutorial decisions based on that evidence. The release of these millions of pages is not the end of the story. It is an opening. The files provide a far fuller record than existed in public before, and that record will be mined for years by journalists, investigators, and officials. What the documents show most clearly is how complex and intertwined Epstein's world was, how influence, money, and social access intersected with allegations of abuse, and how many unanswered institutional questions remain. We'll keep tracking the developments and reporting what the documents substantiate and what remains unproven. Tell us, which part of the release surprised you the most? Drop a comment and we'll pin the top responses. Thanks for watching. Subscribe for more evidence-first explainers from EconomiQ, no spin, no hype.